Om Shanti. Baba is the ocean of love. And our definition is master oceans of love. This thing called love, is it something that we try to experience, or is it something that we show or give? Is it a nurturing substance? Is it a thing? What is this thing? What is this thing called love? And today's subject is the magical power of love. In Christianity, at least in Gyan, it is said that Christianity is all about love, and the two commandments of Christianity, that love God with all your heart and mind and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. So love is a central spiritual act. The relationship between the soul and the Supreme Soul is a relationship of love. If there is love for Baba, when you feel love for Baba, or when you feel how much you have love for Baba, it tells you something very important about yourself. Have you had this experience? Sometimes it will happen that you realize that you do love God. You realize that your love for God is something bigger than you, It's a very intense thing that you cannot feel very often, but occasionally it will make itself known to you, and then you have to remember that this is probably the prime motivating force in your existence. Have you experienced that? It is such a thing that in comparison to it, things that happen, quote unquote, are small things. When you don't feel that love for God, then things that happen, what in Hindi we call baat, there's some baat, some issue, something came up, something happened, that becomes big. But when you feel the love you have for Baba, then in comparison, those things are really very small. Sometimes when we ask ourselves, what are the fundamental qualifications for a person to become a Brahmin? And it had come up that great love for God and great love for humanity. If you have these two things, you're likely to be a Brahmin. If you don't love God, then you're too small, I remember one time I said to Dadi Janki, I said, I really don't think I love God. She looked at me and she said, don't be ridiculous. Of course you love God. I said, no, I don't. She said, no. I said, I don't feel any love for God. She said, nonsense. Look at what you're doing. That's the proof. Everything you do, everything you have is all for Baba. So that's the proof that you love Baba, whether you feel it or not. So I said, okay. But there are occasions when you really feel it. Feeling your love for Baba is a kind of peak experience, and therefore it can't really be very often. Peak experiences are occasional, and we have to commit them to memory, so that sometimes we refer back to those memories, and we know that yes, more than anything else, I love Baba. And so we say, Mera Baba, Baba is mine. What you make as your own, that means you love. It's a possessive, not possessive in a negative sense, but the possessive that Baba is mine and I am Baba's. Two things, very deep things. To feel love for your own self is a very special thing too. What is exactly the magic of love for your own self? And there are obstacles and barriers in this too, because our love for Baba is love for something or someone that is absolute, that is perfect, that actually gives us everything that anyone could want. And in that sense, Baba then becomes your world. If there was no Baba, it's unthinkable, you know. I remember one time having an experience in the fairly early days of Gyan, as we churn the knowledge that we've just been receiving, and it changes our thinking patterns. And I remember having an experience of being, as it were, catapulted out into the far reaches of the universe. And experiencing, this total detachment from the planet, and finding myself not alone. That's a very special experience, an experience that everything that we can see and feel and hear and know on this physical planet can be gone. That includes your body. And you experience, I exist, I'm still there, and Baba is there. Someone is there. Whoever that someone is, that's Baba. And that becomes enough, you see. It's a very, very empowering thing to feel and to understand. Because with that, it empowers you to be free from all of the things of the material world that we otherwise use as crutches. Because love is a word that we use to refer to the things that we depend upon. And in Baba's language, that's called attachment or dependency, but in body-conscious language, it's called love. So one of the things that we find ourselves doing as we come in Gyan is redefining our use of language and our use of these terms. And our intellect is changing from being what we call a body-conscious intellect, which uses language in a body-conscious way, into a soul-conscious intellect, which uses language in a soul-conscious way. And then as we progress through our day, and we look at ourselves, am I being soul-conscious, am I being body-conscious, what's exactly going on within me at this time? And whenever we go into a traffic control or we have a moment of meditation, we're practicing to draw ourselves away from the consciousness of the body. That means we're shifting into a different dimension, which is a bodiless stage. And in the bodiless stage, we want to be able to feel our essential original self independently of our image, our physical manifestation. And that's also an experience of being independent. So we turn within and we feel, what is me? And who is me? Again and again this question, what am I, who am I? And Baba has said, you are a soul, not an object, but a being. That means that together with that being is this quality of love that is my essence. And Baba has said, he is the ocean of love and the soul is the essence of love. Not that love is also a thing. Love is not a commodity, but it's a potential for a certain type of action, a certain type of thought. There's one sister, you may know her, Sister Morni, who used to be in Hong Kong and who's now in Australia. And one of the things that she often says is, love is a verb. Love is a verb. That means when you do an act that is absolutely positive, that's an act of love. The soul is hungry to feel love, because love is something that sustains us. So we feel, for example, Baba loves me, or Daddy loves me. That means there's a certain energy that's coming from a powerful soul which sustains me, feeds me, energizes me. But behind that energy, there is an attitude and an intention. So for me to be a provider of love, a giver of love, a bestower of love, then I also have to see what is it in me, the essence of me that is going from me outward towards anyone, which is truly loving. And if I don't want anything back, then we could say that is love. Of course, we know from the philosophy of karma that whatever is extended, anything that is given, there will be an equal and opposite return. We know that it is impossible to do a loving action without receiving some blessings in return. But then, if I do something because I want something back, that's not a loving action, it's a selfish action. It's an action that I do because I'm empty. And so it isn't actually love. Love is something that spills over when you're totally full. When there is negativity in the self, it means that it produces a state of emptiness. This is one of the reasons why Baba has given us the knowledge of drama, in which he has told us quite a lot recently that drama means whatever has happened is fine, regardless of what it is. good, bad, or indifferent, we say, it is fine. And whatever is happening at the moment, this is also fine. Good, bad, or indifferent, it is good. And whatever will happen in the future is even better. We say this because we know that the confluence age is the age in which we know the totality of all things. And the totality of all things is contained within the cycle. Golden Age, Silver Age, Copper Age, Iron Age. The whole totality of everything is a kind of a plus sign. It's like it is, as opposed to it is not. You know? So we know the whole totality of the drama, and we say the drama is the creation of Baba. The creation of the Creator. That means it's a good thing. It contains positive, negative, and for us to love the drama, it means that I view all the good, bad, and different, all the Golden Age, Silver Age, Copper Age, Iron Age, that the whole thing, that is my existence and all of our existence, and there is love for existence. The positive and the negative is okay. When we come to terms with the positive and the negative, then we are not fighting against it. Whenever we fight against something, it means we don't like something. That means that's hatred. Anytime we have a feeling of hatred about any behavior or any person or any event, then our relationship with it is that it weakens us. And any action that we do based upon hatred, even if it's hatred of a so-called bad thing, it results in failure. And not very many people know this. They think it's normal. Body-conscious intellect says that if something is good, you love it, and if something is bad, you hate it. And this is proper. But Baba comes along and he says, no, it's not quite like that. Baba is the creator and he loves the creation. We are souls, but we also call ourselves creation. And we have our Golden Age, Silver Age, Copper Age and Iron Age, all the way from our absolute perfection to our absolute imperfection. And Baba loves us as a totality, you see? Because I am his child, as is. You know, when we come to Baba, we are empty, we're depleted, we have various karmic accounts, we are relatively ugly in comparison to what we were in the Golden Age, our characters are somewhat flawed, all of these things. So when we look at ourselves, we see the imperfection and we don't love ourselves. And so we have to substitute ego or something like this to be able to handle it. And then Baba gives us soul consciousness, and he gives us knowledge that no, love yourself as I love you. Golden Age, Silver Age, Copper Age, Iron Age, you are mine. In whatever you are mine. And so very often we are told, see yourself as Baba sees you. That means full acceptance of the self. So love is also very much about acceptance. I must accept myself, including all my flaws, including all my wounds and distorted bits and pieces that are in me. You have to love it. And the example of this that's sometimes given is if there's a mother who gives birth to a child who has some some birth defect or is crippled or whatever the thing is. But they always say, no, the mother's love is you love that child regardless. You know? Whether they do or not in reality is another subject, but that's the example that's given. You know? And so we need to have that kind of love for ourselves. That means that we have to give up this idea that if something's good, you love it, and if something's bad, you hate it. That's a very, very deep thing. The result of hating bad things is we get weak, and the bad things continue to be what they are. So it doesn't really get you anywhere. Nothing happens as a result. But if there is something, first thing that you take is yourself. You look at yourself with the eye of love. That whatever it is that I am, and one thing that Baba has told us is that we will live with ourselves forever. There is no way that we cannot be ourselves. And I, the self, am eternal, immortal, indivisible, and unremovable, from existence. Sometimes we think, we should have hatred for our bad sanskaras and love for our good sanskaras, and then we try and cut ourselves in half and throw away half of ourselves. Have you tried that? Probably you have, but you can't do that. Because you can't have a half of a soul. It doesn't exist. The soul is a one. You can't be a soul and a half either. You're one soul. And inside the soul, as you know, if you would cut it in half and see what's in there, you would find Golden Age sanskaras, Copper Age sanskaras, Silver Age, Copper Age, Iron Age, and Confluence Age. And this is what we are. We are beings who pass through the cycle of change. And we, Brahman souls, pass through the total change, all the way from the absolute beauty of heaven to the absolute sorrow of hell. And the work that we must do towards ourselves is to love all parts of ourselves, because that's very healing. And it's a very interesting meditation to look at yourself and see all of the parts of yourself that you feel bad about. All these bad sanskaras and things that happened and whatever you regret and so on. And look at those things with an attitude of compassion, mercy. Compassion and mercy are aspects of love. And until and unless we are merciful towards our own selves, it's very difficult to give up that hatred thing. And we think, no, I should be like this, and I should be like that, and I shouldn't be like this, and I shouldn't be like that. It means we are sort of cutting ourselves into little pieces, and then that fragmenting mentality prevents us from actually becoming what Baba wants us to be. And first thing Baba wants us to be is accepting of ourselves to such an extent that we are happy. Happiness, a very elusive thing. I remember when I was a very, very small child, I would read various books and so on, and the big question seemed to be, what is the purpose of life? And the purpose of life was actually happiness. And then it used to be said, well, happiness is unattainable. And I used to think, well, there's no point. So happiness is actually the purpose of our existence. How will I be happy? Mostly through absolutely loving myself. Because I will be with me forever and ever and ever and ever. And it's not possible for me to become somebody else. One of the aspects of hatred of the self, you say, "Oh, no, I wish I was like this one, or more like this one, or more like that one." You know, have you ever thought that? Or you see somebody, they look successful, you say, "Well, I wish I had what they have," or "I wish I had their qualities." This thing of comparison. We've had many classes about comparison. But we are incomparable. Every soul is incomparable. So look at your own soul as an incomparable being. And that we can actually only compare one part of ourselves, of our cycle, with another part. And we can say that in comparison with my golden age self, my silver age self is silver aged. It's what it is. And my copper age self is copper age. And my iron age self is iron age. And it's what it is. But it's only now, at the confluence age, that we have the information and we have the possibility to look at ourselves exactly how we are, and to know that we have already passed the worst it's ever going to be. We already passed. And as soon as we arrive in the confluence age, we are drawing power from Baba. That's why we meditate. We're drawing power from Baba. So the more we love ourselves, the more we will do what is good for ourselves. And so we will draw more and more power from Baba, because that brings us from the empty stage to the full stage. And when you draw power, light, knowledge, whatever it is you draw from Baba, you are adding to yourself. And it's a natural instinct in the soul to improve the self. In body consciousness, we improve ourselves by getting some status, or getting some things, or more money, or a bigger house, or these physical forms of improving the self. But once we know that we are a soul, that instinct to improve ourselves becomes spiritualized, and we start to fill ourselves from Baba. And as we do that, a change takes place. And when we experience change within ourselves, we feel very encouraged. Now, I remember not very long ago checking myself very deep to see, in 25 years of Brahmakumari's practice, how much change had taken place. And I found it was about 1/2 inch in my terms. So I said, well, that's not very much. And I think that when you do that kind of thing and look and see, you know, how much have I taken advantage of this which is on offer from Baba, it gives us the opportunity to accelerate the whole thing, to speed the whole thing up and say, no, I don't want to keep advancing at this tortoise rate. And maybe other people would say, oh, you're advancing by leaps and bounds, but it depends how you are in your own eyes, you know. And I think that sometimes people, they work on themselves in a certain way, and they don't feel they're getting anywhere. Have you felt that? You know, the same old nasty sanskara comes up again and again and again. You can be doing it for years and years, and it's like you're not getting anywhere. And it's as if you have to do the thing differently. And part of that is loving the self. Loving the self the way Baba loves us. Then you're not fighting against something that you consider to be negative within yourself. There's an inclusion of all aspects of the self. You love yourself as is, and you love Baba, and you bring those two things together, and you allow the magic to occur. So Baba has said, see the people and the circumstances that appear to be against you, that appear to be negative, see them as beneficial. He has told us this. But then we cannot do that unless we start to love them. There's a song that sometimes gets played, a Hindi song. Of course, you don't necessarily know what the songs mean, but there is one that says, Baba, I love your flowers and I also love your thorns. And love, to be effective, has to be such a total thing that the good things and the bad things that come our way, we love both of them. Loving them means we're taking them in a way that we're taking profit. We're turning them to our advantage. So the relationship with these things is always positive. As soon as we start hating something or trying to fight it, our relationship is negative. And any negativity in us, in the confluence age, slows down our progress. And so then our job becomes to reconsider the whole thing in such a way that we're actually experiencing everything in a way that's positive. And you feel yourself moving forward very quickly. Baba said in today's Murli, there has to be a balance between love and service. Normally we hear about the balance between remembrance and service, and the way we very often interpret that is the internalized quiet time versus the active time, and we try and make a balance for that. Now he says love and service. In a sense, we could say service is love. But sometimes service is a word we use for trying to get something to happen. Actually, trying to get something to happen can become an adversarial relationship with the drama. One thing that Baba has been telling us is to inculcate this sense of being an instrument. That means to somehow open the self so that Baba gets done whatever Baba wants to get done. Or Baba will take this hand and use it to get something done. And of course, the self is profiting from that. But when we try to make something happen, then the I gets in the way. And whenever there's I, there's an adversarial relationship with the external world. Whereas when we are instrument, it's as if we allow things to take place, whatever has to take place. And there may be things that slow it down, and in that case, we just allow ourselves to become more patient, more slow. I remember when I first came to stay in Madhuban, Brother Karuna had told me, and many people had given me advice, very, very interesting advice, and he had said to me, do nothing, very, very slowly. Because we come from a world where we have to do lots very quickly. Don't you feel that? There's never enough time, there's always too much to do. And here you get an advice, do nothing, very, very slowly. Think about it. It's actually a very loving type of way of being, and it takes away the stress of having to accomplish something. You just be. Of course, we have sanskaras of doing things. But if there's that attitude, do nothing, very, very slowly, it allows us the space to be appreciative, to be loving, to harmonize with whatever else is going on. And the drama is a very big machine of which we are a part. And to be in the drama and loving implies that there are moments when we have to not exactly be passive, or passive in the negative sense, but we have to be non-active. And we have to allow the things to take place the way they need to take place. And I think that also helps us to inculcate this feeling of being an instrument. In the process of world transformation, while in the Bible it says God did everything in 7 days, and we come to the 7 days course and we realize this is 7 days a week for the rest of your life. Yes. So that means it's a lifelong process. And therefore we have to be patient. When we become impatient, that's an element of negativity that takes out the feeling of love. And we try and force things. We can't do that. We have to be patient because the process of change is actually a very slow process. When we look back, after many, many years, you look back on your process and you say, oh, this time has passed extremely fast. But when we're in the middle of it, and we have a vision of what it should be, a vision that Baba has given us, and we take out the word should and we say, this is, I'm going towards this, and just patiently move ahead and ahead and ahead without trying to force anything, then you do move forward. You love yourself, you love the drama, you love the other people who are there, and you do it without impatience. Have you noticed whenever you're impatient with things, how the love is removed from that? And then it's as if you're going backwards, and until you become again fluid and flowing and get back into the rhythm of things, it's as if you aren't really moving forward again. And the confluence age is filled with things that are specially designed to mess up your patience, your love, all of these things. It's supposed to be like that. And whenever these things are there, we have to kind of pass through them and get back to that rhythm where everything is moving smoothly. And whenever we do that, our relationship with those opposing forces also has to be appreciative and patient. Because whenever they happen, we mustn't get irritated with them. We must go with it. Let it be whatever it is and pass through. That is also an act of love. Because otherwise, if we allow these things to destabilize us, then we have to use a lot of energy to get restabilized. But we know that the journey on this boat of Gyan that we are in is a journey across stormy seas. And so we have to go with what it is. So faith, Baba had said today, faith is the foundation of the yogi life. That is very important, that faith. Faith in God and faith in Dharma and faith in ourselves is another kind of love for ourselves and Dharma and Baba. But we're also together with each other. And Baba had said that love is the foundation of the family. Because we're not just individually going to heaven, but we are in process of making a civilization. You know, BK isn't really an organization, it's a civilization. You know, as it gets big, you know, it's the civilization is what it's becoming. So we ourselves have to be very civilized in that. And our relationship with others is very much a product of our relationship with ourselves. It's because I need to be able to accept the others who are around me for what they are. So one thing that I have found as a very useful yukti, a yukti of being loving, is to, from inside, give everyone full permission to be exactly who they are. And this is very useful because we have a tendency to want people to be other than they are. You know? Sometimes we think that doing service means making somebody other than what they are. They have to be soul conscious, not body conscious. They have to be in white, not green. They have to be vegetarian, not non-vegetarian. All these things we feel it necessary to make somebody a certain way. And very often this feeling leads us to behaving with each other in a very non-loving way. And we try and impose what we think is the right conduct on each other. And this is also a kind of test, because whenever we find ourselves doing something like that, then the relationship goes sour. We become perpetrators and they become victims, and that's not very civilized. You know, that's what we're moving away from. So to give a person full permission to be exactly who they are is a way to prevent the self from going into that particular samskara of making somebody some other way than what they are. And you know, sometimes Baba says that we have a tendency to think that, well, I will change if the other one changes. And there is that thing inside, there's a bit of body consciousness, which is that I'm exactly fine the way I am, but everyone else is not okay. You know, and that's why the world is bad. Again, we come back to this thing of hating what we consider to be not good or not right. And Baba has said, no, self-change. So to be accepting of others instead of trying to change them is quite a substantial kind of change. And it's also very loving, you know. Another thing that I find that I have learnt very much by being in Madhuban is to have a policy of respecting everyone, or giving due respect to everyone. A very good policy. I remember one time Dadi Prakashmani was up on stage, and I was up there with her for some reason, and she gave me a pomegranate. She said, "Denise, do you know what a pomegranate is?" I said, "Daddy, what is a pomegranate?" And she said, "This is Madhuban. It's one thing, but there's lots of little seeds with juice pockets around them. They're each a pomegranate piece. And then they also come in little compartments. And some of them are sweet, some of them are sour, some of them are red, some of them are white, some of them are bad, some are horrible, some are very, very good." But she said, "We're all one. We're all one." And that stayed with me, because that's a very important message that I think we learn here. The thing of respecting everyone, and not respecting the good ones and disrespecting the bad ones according to your perception of who's good and who's bad, but really loving and respecting everyone creates ease in your journey. We cannot truly respect and love another until and unless we have self-respect. And Baba has been talking about that a great deal. When a soul has totally accepted and starts loving itself, then you will not get impressed by another person. Sometimes we think that if we're impressed by another person, that means we love another person. And if we're unimpressed by another person, we don't love them. Being impressed by another person is to forget yourself. And so it's a very, very important part of love to not be impressed by another person. That puts us in a lot of trouble. And our habit of comparing puts us in this situation. Because we see ourselves in terms of the other people. I'm better than or worse than. But again and again come back to this thing of being incomparable. I am an incomparable soul, and you are an incomparable soul. We don't compare with each other. You are what you are, I am what I am. I am blessed with Baba's qualities, you are blessed with Baba's qualities. But then you start to see this donation of qualities that Baba has given to the self and to another. Then you can appreciate another one, but not getting impressed. The danger of getting impressed is you lose yourself. This is not good. Soul consciousness means never, never, never lose yourself. We neither blow ourselves up in comparison with somebody we think is lesser, or nor we get impressed by somebody and put ourselves down. Either of those is a kind of, giving sorrow or taking sorrow, and we want to get away from that. So to not give sorrow means to not see somebody as lesser, and to not take sorrow is to not see somebody as greater. But whoever is there, if they have a good thought, a good idea, a good quality, create space for that quality to operate and enjoy, Become, as it were, like a lotus petal when you're working with other Brahmins on any project. If ever you're doing something all by yourself, it doesn't really quite work out. And Baba wants us to work together so that we come away from claiming that I did this or I am doing this. but it's a we, where we bring together the different qualities and something comes out of it, and we say with honesty and truthfulness, this is Baba. Baba got it done. And I was part of it. And we work together on it. And every time we work together with another person, there are opportunities to see things about yourself. When we have a very weak ego, then when the mirror comes in front of us, we shatter that mirror, we don't want to see. But as we become strong, we become sufficiently loving to be able to look in the mirror of, say, our interaction with another person, to be able to see what our weakness is and go beyond it quickly. Because we learn something. If we are very attached to ourselves, we can't allow that change to take place. But if we are detached from ourselves, then when somebody shows a mirror and they show you something about yourself that may be not so nice, you can say thank you and inculcate that thing, and then the other person becomes instrumental for your change, and your old way melts away, disappears, goes to sleep, And in that way we give and take from each other good things. But fundamentally, to see all of these things with a positive approach, so that even something might hurt you, but then you love it. That means you're able to take the benefit that is potential within that thing, you see. And then it might hurt a bit for a couple of seconds, but what you gain from it is very great, so you forget that. Because if we don't do that, then we find ourselves locked into an antagonistic situation, and all the love is lost, and we cannot progress, we just remain stuck. We don't like that, we want to move forward. And so for that, this approach of love is very, very expedient, and we go forward quickly. It's a magic thing. So I will stop there, and we'll have a half-hour meditation. And in that meditation, you can just think about all the things in your Brahman environment which may be positive or which may appear to be negative, and experiment with having an attitude of love towards the things that seem to be negative, and you will find that it declaws those things, and you're able to actually take some good benefit and move through the thing very easily, and love yourself and love those things, and then get beyond it to the next level of personal development. Om Shanti.